I don't know what we're supposed to do. He's too big. And I'm like, I wasn't too big yesterday, you jackass.
You want to come to America, you got to send a friend request to Uncle Sam.
Hey, tell me about this bourbon and rum podcast. What is this about? He said.
Welcome to Bourbon and Rum, the podcast dedicated to civil conversation. I'm Kent, I like rum, and I'm from the left side of the aisle.
And I'm Kyle. I like bourbon. I tend to be a little more conservative. We're brothers talking politics over bourbon and rum.
What are you drinking?
I am drinking Benchmark Full Proof. Benchmark is a Buffalo Trace brand, but it's like a budget brand. And they have, they got a single barrel, they got a full proof, they got a bottle and bond. I think the full proof is the best of all of them. And they kind of say it's like a Stag Junior. Like it's there's George T. Stagg, which is the top, really high quality, full proof bourbon. And then there's a Stag Junior, which is a little bit lower age that's high proof. And then this is like a junior to the junior, which is, it's 125 proof. So it's potent, but it's not quite as not quite as smooth as some of the others. But yeah, does the job for $22.
Cool.
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Barbados cocktail made with inexpensive rum from the Dominican Republic. But I should be rocking the Venezuelan stuff just to give just to give the finger to the Trump administration.
Well, if that tanker that they seized today was full of Barbados rum, now that would be a lot of rum.
Well, we chatted pre-show, and you raised kind of an interesting development, and talking a little bit about ramifications. You want to roll with that?
Yeah, I in general like the progress that we've had at the southern border. I think it's good that ending the legal immigration and making getting some additional security. I'm a little worried on some of the stuff I read about. I saw a headline about they're going to start asking visitors from like run-of-the-mill European countries that they're going to have to be able to disclose 5 years of social media history before they can visit the United States. And I'm thinking, recently went to the UK, and now you can't just travel to the UK. You got to file an electronic travel authorization and pay $25. I mean, it's not the end of the world, and it took all of 2 minutes to process. But I think we got to be careful in some of these rules, because every rule we levy on everybody else in the world, they're going to levy right back on us. And now, I travel a lot for work internationally, and I travel for fun. I enjoy traveling internationally, but if going everywhere is now going to be some type of goat rope because we're putting down a bunch of restrictions, I mean, all these things are reciprocal. And, we've talked about, I've talked about some of the issues of in the UK around freedom of expression and that sort of thing. I don't think I'd want the UK government to see, well, I'm not concerned about my social media history, but I wouldn't want the UK government delving into my privacy at all, so I can see that being a real problem in the future.
You know what we could do, using the miracle of data science and all available data, we could assign to every person, picture like a credit score, but a social worthiness credit score.
Isn't there a movie about that?
Oh, yeah. No, that's communist China.
Yeah. Well, what is the movie though? What movie was that where everybody's got a credit?
There was an episode of Dark Mirror or Black Mirror.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What I thought was interesting is, look, the Democrats do this too, so this isn't just a partisan thing. But the meaning of this bill or this requirement is right at the zero mark. Why would you have to provide your social media? Couldn't they just look at your social media? It's out there. That's the whole point.
Yeah, and how are you going to enforce that? Like, is some guy, and I should say, I have respect for government officials to a degree, but some of these people, like, I don't know, a lot of these people are just doing their job. I get it, but like some of the people you deal with. So I don't deal with border agents a whole lot. I mean, other than coming back from abroad, but like I deal with TSA multiple times a week. I'm 7 feet tall, and I also have an implant. And so every time I go through security, which is, multiple times a week, I've got an implant. Well, it all depends. It's so inconsistent. Like, depends on the airport. Sometimes I go through the metal detector and it doesn't set it off and I'm fine. Then sometimes it sets it off. Now, when it sets it off, sometimes they say, well, you're an opt-in, and then you go through like the full scan where you put your hands up in the air. But then some portion of that time I get up to that machine, and depending on who's working, oh, you're too tall for this. I mean, I can be at the same freaking checkpoint, and one day I get through fine, it doesn't set the metal detector off. The next day I go through and I have to opt in and go through the thing. And then the next day I go through and they say, oh, you're too big for it. And then you have to do a full pat down, the full, molestation by the TSA. And it's like, it's just so like they all are just making the crap up every time it happens. Well, I don't know what we're supposed to do. He's too big. And I'm like, I wasn't too big yesterday, you jackass. I'm like,
Well, okay, so not just to be argumentative, but I do know that one of the things that's talked about in like security circles is that being a little unpredictable actually is a more secure way to look at things.
Yeah, maybe.
If you knew like clockwork, oh, Phil's working the desk today and Phil only looks at the ID and he doesn't check the boarding pass. I think that probably what you're experiencing is ineptitude, but it may be that the ineptitude works to our better security.
I mean, I am not a good proponent of the government every time I leave TSA, because every time I leave TSA, I'm like, these people are idiots, But yeah, maybe it's an orchestrated thing. I guess where I was thinking with that, like, and you make a good point, but as I'm thinking about these people that I'm often like, using expletives to describe, I'd be worried that that's the same caliber of individual that's looking at the social media and then is like, oh, well, you had a Facebook post of blah, blah, blah. Like, where the hell is that going? And like, I don't know that these government agencies do well with subjectivity. I mean, again, TSA example, like, it's different. How do we handle it? Like, that seems like a mess.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, it flies a little in the face of freedom of speech to me. I understand, you're talking about people who want to visit this country from somewhere else. And so, it's certainly not a violation of the First Amendment, but it kind of undercuts the First Amendment to me. You know what I mean? Like, you can say what you want. I will give credit to my younger son, who years ago said this, not that we should create a social credit score system, but his point was, you do whatever you want with social media, but like it's all indelible. Like it all follows you, every word of it forever, and it's out there. So there's no value judgment, there's no score, there's nobody, but you've got to own your words forever. And if you say something irresponsible, you say, well, I was really mad at the time and I didn't mean it. But it's out there and you've got to deal with that. That actually kind of made some sense to me.
Well, and then I think about, okay, well, if there'd have been Facebook and social media pre 9/11. I mean, would the guys that flew the buildings or flew the aircraft in the buildings, would they have been posting "Death to America" on their social media? Or I'm guessing not. Like you wouldn't have a trace of these sons of bitches.
No, I mean, they might use like Signal, like the Secretary of Defense did when he was
A secure system like Signal. Yes.
talking to his and accidentally had a reporter on the distribution list. No, I
Who's
think it's a
area
good
code
point,
212?
Like, I think it is a good point that those kind of things catch the careless. They don't catch the criminal mastermind.
Yeah.
But you also raise a good point that, you know, the law of physics and international diplomacy, that every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. And do we want that? Do we want to have to? I mean, how does that work? Do you show your phone when you arrive at Toronto's airport? And what?
Yeah.
Like, what did you say about this?
Tell me about Tell me about this bourbon and rum podcast. What is this about exactly?
We've listened to. I imagine who would that be? Would it be like the Mounties that would be going through our back catalog? That's not a slam. They actually go by that term. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police is the federal law enforcement in Canada.
To your earlier point, like I would hope governments are more sophisticated to find bad guys than, well, I need him to input his Facebook password so I can see his account. Like, if that's our last line of defense, that's a little frightening.
I mean, maybe there's an address that you've got a friend on Facebook, and that's how they do it, right? Like, you want to come to America, and you got to send a friend request to Uncle Sam. There's somebody in the back room, like, paging through your pictures of your kids' birthday parties. Great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about the reciprocal barriers to entry of shutting down the southern border. I wasn't planning to go to the UK via a barge across the English Channel. So, like, I'm okay having to go through a border, but I don't think it's good for us to make it harder on us and all these other countries. And I don't know that, there's a lot of folks, you talk to a lot of people that don't want to come to the United States because of various reasons. And, I don't know how big of a problem that is. That would be an interesting topic too. Like, is tourism revenue down? I don't know that it is. I tell you, I was in New York City this past weekend. Wife and I went up there, and I mean, there's a lot of people. Well, I don't know if they're all from other countries, but it is amazing being there. We were in line to get into the World Trade Center memorial, and I mean, the languages you hear in line. I mean, it's like every country in the world is there. It's a neat place.
That's cool. I think I want to say about the border, I don't know. I don't want to be mischaracterized. I probably said things that I would have to retract on my social credit score. I am not opposed and have never been opposed to agreeing to a set of laws about our border and enforcing those laws. And it was a frustration that the Biden administration didn't do as well as they should. But it's certainly not only been a Democrat problem, it's been a chronic thing. And enforcing border laws is fine. What I have never understood is why Donald Trump has felt like he had to dehumanize and vilify. There are a lot of people that want to get into this country, and there are a lot of people that would walk across the desert to get into this country. And you can call that illegal, But that is a very different thing than someone coming here to perform terrorism. And I'm not opposed to closing the border and not letting them across, and enforcing that is fine. But I have not contempt for, but great respect for someone that says America represents what I aspire to and is willing to cross the border. So it's the vilification of the people that I find most repugnant. But enforcing the law is fine. The other problem with it, though, is that we can talk about, oh, it's law and order. Oh, we've got to enforce the law. Oh, we got to close the border. We can go off the rails, I think, and say those brown people are rapists and murderers, and I think that that's outrageous. But you know what's not getting talked about in any of that is why. What are the economic incentives? Why do people want to come to this country? Trust me, they're not lining up to get into this country for free health care. They're coming here to work and to send money home. And we need them. They're coming here because people hire them when they get here. We need workers in this country. And so I wish we could bundle this conversation with some common sense about the economics of it. I'm an economist first. I believe that the law of supply and demand takes things. And there is supply of foreign workers that want to come here, and there is demand from companies that want to hire them. Why are we opposed to that?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. It's a good thing you're going to get another cocktail because I have a lot to unpack. I don't think there's an opposition to bringing people here to do work. And I think the Trump administration has been pretty favorable toward the types of visas needed to bring skilled workers. I think the issue is about, just letting anybody in without any vetting at all. And it's funny because we kind of started this like, I'm a little worried about the level of vetting. Well, is the vetting going to be too much? Because then we're going to have to vet everything. But, I don't think a good defense is that people can just walk in. I think people walking across the border without controls, there's a security element, but I think there's also a basic fairness element too, in that, other people doing it by the books through all the legal nonsense, and other people can just get away with not having to do it. And so I think there's a fairness issue. I don't know what you meant by the brown people comment about, was that quoting something?
Well, kind of a hybrid. First of all, before I answer that, I think that the argument about fairness, I think that's a totally fair argument. And so I'm not arguing that we should just throw the doors open. It is the vilification of people. And
that's the number one issue. And you talk to anybody who's opposed to legal immigration, it's about security. It's about.
Okay. So then wouldn't ICE for deportation prioritize those that have committed crimes?
And they have. Those people are being. Those were the first to go.
I mean, there's all kinds of stories of people that are just minding their own business and they're getting plucked out of their. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's probably true about what you believe about the border, and I'm not trying to accuse you of something nefarious, but I think that there's people that there are people that have published and said the whole they're worried about the white people becoming a minority. This is not you, and I'm not trying to blur those lines, but my God.
Well, I don't think it's about.
Give you the benefit
I don't
of the
think
doubt.
it's about white, brown, or black, but it's not the replacement theory you're talking about. I see it less as a racial thing, but more as there are absolutely. What other motivation did Joe Biden have to throw open the doors, other than a political motivation? Like what?
Candidly, I don't. No, I don't think that. I don't think. I think that what he was doing was that it had become so politicized and so identified with the Trump administration that he was afraid. You've pointed out that Obama did a lot of deportations, and I think that Biden was afraid of anything that would even look bad on TV, like we were. I don't know. I think it was a mistake, and I'm not supporting open borders, not in the least. I think it's totally fair and fine and appropriate to enforce the laws as they are. I think that if you're trying to create laws that are going to deport, I don't know, make up the astronomical number that people use, 10 million people in this country that we're going to march out of here. I don't know. Can our economy handle that? How's that going to go? How's that going to go? You know, I don't know. I'm probably not making a lot of sense. I freely admit that what I see as if Trump meant, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. If what he meant was out of those 10 million people, the same or even slightly larger percentage of them are rapists and murderers as we have in our own country, and those were the only people that I was really singling out, man, it sure sounds like I'm just painting 10 million people with a brush.
Okay, but play that back. Like, how would you know how many of that group? I mean, if a million people walk across the border and you have no idea who they are, I mean, some of them are committing crimes, but how would you have any way of knowing how much of that population is committing crimes or not? It's all a big guess.
Well, how many are arrested? I mean, criminals often get caught, not always, but often get caught. I mean, are we catching illegal immigrants? There are high-profile examples of illegal immigrants
100%.
committing crimes. So I'm not trying to deny that. But, I mean, didn't Trump tell us that Chicago is like the end of the world because there's a lot of crime in Chicago? And he is ostensibly not talking about the occasional Mexican immigrant that found their way to Chicago. So, like, yeah, of course, if we let 1 million people in the border and don't pay attention to it, we're going to pick up people that we don't want here that are criminals. Admitted. And that's a good reason to keep the border tight. But how can you not think that he's playing on a lot of other fears? Economic fear. I think people are afraid of losing their jobs. I think they're afraid that they're getting out-competed.
I think he saw it as something, you know, if I'm looking at it through the lens of a political calculus, I think he saw it as something that could be addressed and fixed and has never been addressed or fixed. I mean, you know, if you go back 20 plus years, you can find all kinds of video of the Clintons and Biden and everybody else saying how it's broken and we got illegal immigrants and the crime and blah, 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 many of the same things. But it seemed like for a good 20 years, the term everybody used, well, we need comprehensive immigration reform. And you hear every politician on the right and left say, we need comprehensive immigration reform, which is just a big meaningless BS term that nobody could ever figure out how to solve.
But here's where I go to my motivation thing and my economic determinism that I was talking about before. You know why neither the Clintons nor Bush nor Obama was able to fix this? Because the right answer to fixing this is probably things like amnesty. It's probably things like raising caps on people that come here. We need these people. The problem is that the illegal system has been designed. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we need these people in our country. They're doing valuable jobs. There are not 10 million people just sitting on the welfare ranks. They don't get welfare. They don't get Social Security. They're paying Social Security taxes that they will never collect. We need them in our economy. And what we need to do is to make it easier for people to immigrate. But you know why they don't do it? Because there's a segment in our country that feels that as an economic threat and would take that as a direct shot against the bow against them.
Well, I think he saw it as an opportunity to fix something that has never been addressed. And I think a big chunk of the population saw it as a huge security issue, especially in the second term as Biden, just opened up the doors.
Why
And
could he
and
not
it's
just
something
say
that can
it's
be
a security issue then? Why do we have to
because there's rapists and murderers that could hurt people. It's a security issue.
thank
But that's
God there's
not-
no rapists and murders already here.
Well, I guess I'm just saying, like, how do you know, I don't know that there's a way to replay that would be acceptable to you
Well, not calling
without vilifying somebody.
entire swaths of people. I don't know, what do you call the Somali community in Minnesota? That's the part that I don't understand. If your position is strong, why do you got to go to ad hominem attacks? Why do you have to try to paint people as other? Why do you have to play on? I don't know if I don't think Donald Trump cares about other human beings enough to be a racist about anything. But so I'm not saying, oh, he's a racist, but he's sure as hell happy to make racists comfortable in his messaging. And
Well, I don't see how I can't get to the racist piece of the security element of it. I mean, it seems logical. I mean, that and
but
you're
why
gonna
not
seal up the
say
border,
this
and
is a
they did, and it
security
worked.
issue? This is a security issue. They are rapists and murderers.
People are coming to this country unchecked, and there's people that are racist and murderers. I've at some point we get to like this semantics discussion, and it has to do with the person saying it. If Obama said that or Clinton said it, there wouldn't be an issue. But Trump said it, and I think there's no way that there's
You're probably
anything
right.
but that reaction.
You're probably right. I think that he deliberately chose language that completely othered people, and I don't think that his dog whistle was directed at people that were worried about security. I believe you that you were, but I don't think that's what's going on in this conversation. I don't think that's who he's speaking to when he says they're eating the dogs. It's not you that he's playing that story for.
I disagree. I think there's a lot. I would love to look at the polling numbers of the people that saw security as the biggest problem with illegal immigration.
But yeah, I agree. But that's what I'm saying. He's not. Do you think that there's nobody that hears him say that and say, damn right, those Mexicans are coming over here. We got to stop them.
Well, half the people coming across aren't even Mexican. They're from
Just saying,
throughout
you
Central
don't-
America, South America, the Middle East, China.
If the issue that he's trying to trade on is a legitimate security play, why not say that?
I guess
Why do
I
you
don't
got to?
understand why saying there's murderers and rapists coming is not a security issue.
He states it like that's all that's coming across. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I hear you say that, but I've also heard him on other broadcasts say, no, there's people coming that are looking for work and they're not bad, but we have to have a way to vet people. I mean,
Has he raised proposals to increase the number of people that we accept as legal immigrants?
Don't know the answer to that. Probably not. Who has?
I mean,
is there anybody that's promoting that?
no, because it's politically unpopular, but it's the right thing to do. We need more people in this country. We need more people paying into Social Security. We need the workforce. That's a totally separate
We
issue.
need more people to collect Social Security then. You want them because you want free payers into Social Security. You don't want to pay them Social Security. You just want to collect from them.
No, I'd be more than happy for I'd be more than happy for them to get their Social Security. We come out ahead on the deal. We need more people paying in. That is a separate issue. You're right. I will never get over that from Trump. And for all of the things that he's done and all of the things that the norms that he's tipped over, all of the schlocky shit that he's put in the Oval Office, all of the things that I can't stand about the guy, the vilification of immigrants is the unforgivable thing that I'll never get over.
So, yeah, I mean, we've gone down that path a few times. Obviously, we'll agree to disagree on some of that, but I guess I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth back to the beginning of this, because I'm saying I think it's good that we're vetting people, but now I'm like, but I don't want to vet 5 years of social media history because I'm afraid I'll get vetted. And, again, I'm not worried about my social media history, but I kind of want my cake and eat it too. I want security, but I don't want to screw it up for myself when I travel internationally. So is there a balance there?
It's a good question.
Am I asking for too much for me to have a balance? Maybe for you to have a balance would be fine because you're good with the wide path, the wide open.
No, I'm good with. I think we should vet everybody and we should follow the law. But I think the law is dumb. I think the law should let more people into this country. It should be easier to immigrate to the United States of America. It should not be easy to get by without a background check. But
we should pave a road. We should pave a highway through the Darien Gap and make it easier for people to get from South America all the way.
Actually, I would prefer high-speed rail through the Darien Gap.
There we go. Hey, let's do a high-speed rail nonstop from Buenos Aires to St. Louis. Well, this is good. We're disagreeing a little bit. I was afraid that, we started this and I was like, man, I keep bringing up these topics that we agree on. People are going to be like, where's the fight?
I think that we're not opposed to each other, but I don't think we're as close on that as it feels like.
Yeah.
I am actually not that, like, I think checking people's social media. Again, what are they going to submit it? Again, like you have to friend Uncle Sam and we'll check you out. Like,
yeah.
If what they've got is bad, how many $1 trillion do we spend on the NSA? For cripe's sake, can they not tell us what people's social
come
media
on.
looks
You
like?
don't know this already?
But I do think that's a fair thing to check out, right? Like I'm not opposed to that, but
yeah,
the mechanics of it seem a little wonky.
Yeah, and I guess I'm just wondering, like, okay, we fixed the issue at the border, but then like, is there like mission creep, and it's gonna get, to your point. I mean, rather than locking the place up, I would advocate for, okay, you lock down the border, nobody gets across illegally, you've got vetting, but then you've got a pathway to come visit or to come immigrate here without the TSA style nonsense. I mean, I guess I don't think those two are opposed to each other. I think those two go hand in hand. And I applaud the efforts to shut down the border, but now it's like, to your point, like, I don't want us to turn into an isolationist country where, our passport will be about as worthwhile as a North Korean passport.
Does North Korea have one of those programs where, like, through investment, you can get a North Korean passport?
Yeah, that is. Have you ever seen that though? Like, what the most valuable passport? I think it's like Singapore.
Because everybody's got a treaty with them.
Yeah. Which, and then it's like, okay, yeah, number one is Singapore. Now, so, and this is part of the problem, and this is probably why they're trying to do this, like with the social media and stuff. Singapore, they let everybody in, but nobody screws around in Singapore because they beat the crap out of you with a cane if you
Chew gum.
do something wrong. So, I mean, and honestly, Singapore is basically a totalitarian state. I mean, it's a beautiful place to visit and food's great and the technology and the buildings and everything, but like, you do something wrong, you're like screwed for life, and it's like, so I don't want to be Singapore. So how do you, I honestly though, it's kind of interesting to me that the totalitarian regime that beats the crap out of people for chewing gum or all these little, infractions is an open place people can come and go freely. Is a place like the United States where we enjoy freedoms of speech and we can do whatever we want, is it impossible for us to be as open with our border policies and everything else, hence why we have these restrictions? You know what I mean? It's kind of like,
Yeah.
I mean, Singapore, yeah, we'll let everybody in, but we'll kill you if you, like on the landing card, it says death to drug traffickers, so like, okay, they don't have a drug problem. Okay, well, great,
Yeah. I would feel really strongly that our rights, our freedom of speech, of expression, of travel, of all of those things are sacrosanct to me. And if we had to go to extreme lengths in vetting upon entry in order to protect those freedoms, I'd be in favor of that. I mean, I think in this conversation, I get painted as this like, let everybody come in. I'm not saying that we should let people come in without a background check or without, because I do worry about that. I wouldn't trade our model for a Singapore model for anything in the world. I wouldn't want to live like that.
Right.
And
so really,
if the price of that is that we've got to have higher scrutiny of people coming into this country, that's fine. But that doesn't let you opt out of the laws of economics. We've got 10 million people in this country employed. We got to figure that out. You can't just ship those people off. Those are jobs that are being done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I often thought, I don't know if we've talked about that before on the podcast, but I always thought like the best solution for people here is if, you got all these shopping malls around the country that are like boarded up because you can't, nobody wants to go to a shopping mall because we have Amazon. It's like, why couldn't you set up all these shopping malls as like immigration centers and have like okay, you're going to continue to get deported, but if you will show up at this facility and go through this process, we'll get you a temporary, like have a path, and
like
honestly,
a fast track. Yeah.
A fast track path if you do X, Y, and Z. And honestly, having a robust deportation process at the same time would motivate people to get through the fast track. And it seems like, I don't know how many people have been deported so far.
while you're looking, I could totally get behind that. I don't have a problem with deporting people. I don't have a problem with deporting people. But it ought to be based on something rather than good TV and just the general hatefulness that accompanies it. And in a world where you don't have an option, like why are we going to do this? We're going to take people that do vital jobs in this country, and we're going to terrorize them, and then we're going to wonder who's going to do that job.
But I mean, I guess my thing is, if, like you said, if there's 10 million, if there's 20 million, if there's 30 million, even a really good Obama-style deportation process is only going to get rid of a few million people. If you really wanted to get, cycle through the rest of them, having some kind of fast-track system set up seems like it'd be a lot better way. You could potentially hit everybody. Now, the problem is, if you were previously a murderer or a rapist, you're probably not going to go to the shopping mall and go through the process. But, I would think for the vast majority of people, it would go pretty quick.
Yeah. But that's not on the table. And I guess I was trying to say this before, and I said it inartfully. Any economist would tell you that we ought to be thinking that way, right? But no politician is doing it, neither Republican or Democrat. And I think it's because I think everybody's chicken to say that we don't have enough Americans to do the jobs that we need, and we need outside help. Because there are people that are 10th generation Americans who don't have much of an education and don't have much of an outlook, and they're grumpy about things, and they don't want to hear that we don't have that we need people to do jobs. But we do. It's just patently obvious. There are whole industries that are suffering now because people aren't coming to work. They've either self-deported or they're hiding out because they don't want to. We see this in Iowa. Iowa's full of there are more hogs in Iowa than humans, which is an interesting factoid. But we've got pork and poultry processing plants all over this state, and their workforces are highly skewed to Latin American immigrants, and everybody knows that many of those employees are undocumented and they're using fake Social Security numbers. Like it's like that's what bugs me. That's the part that really bugs me. Is like everybody knows what's going on, and Tyson Foods is more than happy to keep wages low because they employ people that aren't documented. They don't ask a whole lot of questions, and they are more than happy to keep those low-wage people filleting chicken in their plants. And, it's like nobody wants to deal with that fact. You have a whole
it's
class
funny
of
because,
people.
I mean, I think during we've even had that conversation even when you were a freshman Democrat early on in your Democrat journey. Like 20 years ago, Republicans were more pro illegal immigration, but in a silent manner. Like they weren't like, oh, we want open borders, but it was like, because even dad was always like, well, they're paying into Social Security and they're not getting Social Security. That's actually, he always saw it as a positive. And the Democrats were the ones that were always like, we need to do deportations. We need to get rid of the illegal folks. So now it's all, shifted.
That was before Democrats turned their back on organized labor. I think you really raise an interesting conundrum. Could you have American-style freedoms and Singapore-style ease of access? Does that work?
Yeah. And see, I think personally, and I don't know if this is true, but my gut tells me the United States was always like, well, other country we'll have stricter border enforcement, but other countries will cut us slack because we're the United States and everybody wants to come to the United States. Well, maybe not now. Somebody's going to be like, no, screw you. You got to fill out this survey and give me your 5 years of social media access.
I'm just thinking of the Uncle_Sam Instagram account that you're supposed to connect with. You correctly call out my I can't not take the bait on immigration, and I'm never gonna get over that piece of it. And that's a blind spot for me.
I understand. I understand where you're coming from there, and I don't. I would not say that Donald Trump is the type of person who is good at dealing in delicate differences in language. So I don't. I wouldn't profess to say he's been articulate about how he's managed that conversation.
If he's going to win the Nobel Prize, it won't be for subtlety. Hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Bourbon and Rum Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us keep the good spirits flowing.
And we invite you to join this conversation. Follow us on our Facebook page. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear.
And until next time, cheers.